Good morning, everyone. My name is Jeremy. This is Joseph,
Hello.
and this is the Nerd Morning Show. We're going to be talking about who is Gwenpool, and I'm really excited to discuss this. So, the Nerd
She,
Morning, yeah,
sorry, she is so
uh,
fun. Go ahead.
yes, I know. So the Nerd Morning Show is a place where we celebrate nerd culture. We're talking about comics, books, video games, and more. And so we're definitely diving into comics here on this one. Like you said, Gwenpool is so cool. She has a pretty interesting origin story,
Uh-huh.
and it's very much this character, the whole experience.
Yeah.
Um, so so the creators for this had a pretty big team. I'm gonna like slaughter all these names, but here we go. Um, Chris Batchelor, Christopher Hastings, Jordan D. White, and Heather Antos. And I've actually followed some of these on different social media platforms. They're really, really
Uh-huh.
proud of this character. Um, I like enjoy looking at editors and see what they're talking about. Heather Antos is
Yep.
like a big fan of Gwenpool as a character and is really proud of this creation. And I totally get it. Gwenpool is a fascinating and super fun character.
She really is. When you first explained her to me, because I hadn't heard about her until you introduced me to her,
Uh huh.
that she's from our world. I didn't get that at first.
Uh huh.
And you kind of don't get it until you read a little ways in and you realize she's not just crazy. She's crazy,
Hmm.
but she's not just crazy. She really is like if you or I woke up one morning, looked out our window, and saw Iron Man fly by.
Yeah.
Boom. Like,
You're like, I
yeah.
hope I read up on the comics because now
Right?
one of her like superpowers is the knowledge of the comic canon.
Oh,
And so
I
she
love that.
knows
Uh-huh.
different identities, she knows power sets, she knows weaknesses and strengths and story arcs, and that's what makes her powerful. Um, so Gwenpool first appeared in Howard the Duck, Volume 6, Issue number 1. That was in November of 2015. And they re released that issue as the Unbelievable Gwenpool number 0 when they were pursuing her own solo series.
Yeah.
Um, and yes, like she has been retconned actually kind of recently to make it so she's maybe not necessarily from our universe, but she has a mutant ability to think that she's from our universe. They tried really hard to fit her into the X-Men world after she didn't have her solo series. But really, I think it's a pretty low like explanation, and anyone
Yeah.
really talking about Gwenpool is going to be saying about the original origin, and they're going to be
Yes.
holding to it, I think.
Right. This chick, she wakes up, she realizes I'm gonna die if I just
Right?
sit on the sidelines.
Yeah.
So she does it. She gets a
Yeah.
costume
Uh-huh.
uh, and runs with it. Literally, it's
Yeah.
hilarious.
So Gwenpool, she says, okay, I'm in a comic book universe. So the rules of a comic book universe is if you're the main character, you will not die. You'll
Uh
miraculously
huh.
survive no matter what you do. And
Yes.
so she's like, yeah, I'm going to become the main character. And
Uh
so
huh.
she does, getting a suit, going and essentially trying to go and do adventures and all that stuff, really just so she doesn't get killed in a very
Uh-huh.
dangerous situation, which is living in a superhero reality.
Yes.
Um,
That's one of my favorite scenes of all of them that I have read is right at the very beginning. She drives off of a roof in a motorcycle and like, huh, I wonder how this is going to work out.
right? She's not concerned.
She's not
Um,
concerned. She just, it'll be fine. And she lands in a truck of ducks.
yes.
And it breaks her fall. She's, it's just so so funny, especially when you go back later.
Uh-huh.
You're familiar with the character, her little quirks and stuff, and and rereading that was very much, oh yeah, she really believes this.
Mm-hmm.
Like it,
Yeah.
she just knows. It's so fun. I love this character.
Yeah, so one of the things that she does at the beginning is she's actually pretty gruesome in like killing extras because
Uh-huh.
they're all just characters.
They're all
And she's
extras. It's okay.
convinced that they don't really exist
Uh-huh.
because it's a comic book. And
Yeah.
so she's pretty like it's pretty intense. And then she has to kind of mellow out, kind of saying, well, I guess if I'm living here,
Uh-huh.
then this is real to me. Or, she has to figure that out in some ways. But she's like, I'm in a comic book. It doesn't matter. And
Right?
that's a pretty
Whatever.
problematic thing.
Grenade, dink, whoosh. Oh, if I was an extra right now, I'd be terrified.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
She also is definitely not initially like a hero. She really jumps into
no.
that anti-hero dynamic really, really quickly, collaborating with
Yeah.
Hydra and others, like really initially, because she's like, I need
Yeah.
money because I
I
need
need
money to be
money.
able to survive so I can do that. So who's
Uh,
got money? Hydra
Hydra,
always has money.
right?
Uh,
And Howard calls her on it. Howard the Duck is like, really? You didn't think about this, did you? That's where she starts to think, but
yeah.
yeah, really, she starts out almost a villain, really.
Yeah. Yeah. It takes her to like, this is at least real to me right now. She has to have
Uh-huh.
that sink in because she's like, I'm in a comic book. And having somebody who's like, you'd maybe bump into on your weekly pickup at the comic book shop to be suddenly like in the world,
Uh-huh.
like, I don't know, that would take time to digest. And they do have that growing experience for her in this new realm. And I think it's
Yep.
really cool.
It's great writing. It's a wonderful story. I just have so much fun with every time I read a Gwenpool.
Yeah.
So
So let's pull the like big monkey out of the bag here. Gwen being like Gwen Stacy's name relation
uh-huh.
here. And also Deadpool, who is also the designer of the costume, all that heavily
Yes.
inspired. This character is Gwendolyn Poole, Poole.
L. Yeah.
Um, and then chooses to, make it Gwen Poole, Pool, like Deadpool. And so Gwendolyn Poole, the person from the real Earth, it has that, there's no actual
Right.
association with Gwen Stacy, but this is a Gwen verse type character because
Uh-huh.
particularly with MJ and Gwen, we've had many various iterations. Recently, we
Uh-huh.
had an MJ who was Carnage, and we have had these like all take different roles. Gwen becoming Spider Gwen, thus Ghost Spider,
Yep.
and Gwenom, which is a Venom Gwen Stacy, and like there's just countless of these where they're like, well, let's
Let's
make,
play with
yeah.
this and we'll use Gwen because we can. Yeah.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And so like though we're like officially this isn't a Gwen Stacy, this is a Gwen Stacy, and so it's like both not and
Right.
is, depending on
Yeah.
the way that you're looking at it, because there's obviously pulled, not just like randomly from a hat, who is this,
Right.
name of the
Right.
character going to
Just gonna
be.
do something. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. They played with this intentionally. They played with the Deadpool thing intentionally,
Mhm.
and I like how they tweaked that. She goes in for her costume,
Uh-huh.
and she introduces herself to the seamstress, and she says, "Pool, huh?" okay, so she does the Deadpool
Look,
vibe,
yeah,
but in pink, so she can get rid of all that extra pink fabric.
yes,
So
um,
the little
which
bits of
is
irony they throw in there just for
yeah,
fun is great.
right. Because and also like playing off of that, like um, they wanted to have her to have a pink costume, maybe to say this is a girly character, which
Uh,
I mean problematic or not, what like whatever there. But then they're like, let's talk about how this is potentially problematic while we give it to her. Plus, here's all the
uh-huh.
extra fabric I never use. And there's like dialogue here, which is what we get with this type of a character. And
Yes.
with Deadpool, he's famous for breaking the fourth wall, recognizing
Uh-huh.
occasionally that he's in a comic, and things like, I'm kind of feeling uncomfortable now. I'm going to jump back, and I'll see you guys in page 10. That's something you get in a Deadpool comic, and here we have that same concept, but it's tweaked, it's different, because Deadpool doesn't know who Mighty Thor is, and she's like, oh, like there's a moment in here where she's like, Jane, and like Mighty Thor is like, what?
What?
How do you know? And like she's like almost kills her because she's like, my secret
Uh,
identity,
I have to save my identity, and she's like, no.
but like it like big fight. How does someone with no powers beat somebody with the powers of a thunder god? Startle them, throw them off, because
Uh-huh.
that's the only way
Yep.
you will.
Yeah.
And she can, because she knows everyone's secret identity. She
Yep.
knows everyone's backstory. And that's a fun thing to play with. And they do. They don't just like set this up and then don't do anything with it. They
Uh-huh.
actually play with this over and over
Oh
again,
yeah.
which is amazing.
It's a real big plug for knowledge is power.
Mm-hmm.
Because for her it is. At one time she even plays the pen is mightier than the sword cliche and stabs a
Mm-hmm.
guy with a pen. So the
Oh,
it,
yeah.
it's just entertaining to see how they can take little bits of irony here from here and there. Let's play with zombies or vampires. Oh, vampires, we got to bring in Blade and do all these things. She like
Yeah.
meets all of the characters. If you want a place to start in and learn all of the characters from the Marvel universe,
Uh-huh.
Gwenpool is a great place to do it because you could just dive in and you'll get a little intro to everyone.
Yeah. That's a really good point. Like she's got some fantastic story arcs. She's got one where she goes and tries to sell a deadly virus to Hydra for a bunch of money, which was problematic. She becomes a stooge for I think it was Modoc.
It was Modoc.
Yeah, and
Yep.
she's like, oh no, if I'm like a stooge for Modoc, am I the main character still? And if
Right.
I'm not the main character, I don't have main character immunity? And like I gotta deal with this situation because of that. Like there's those things. One of the ones that I found really fun was she gets this like island, and she gets all the heroes to show up, and then has like this battle royale with everybody, kind of like a Hunger Games type of thing, because she like traps everybody just so she can play with everybody, really. Um, and like it's just,
Oh,
they're bizarre, they're silly, they are really really fun.
they are. It's like fangirl on steroids.
Yeah.
It's just a wonderful character, wonderful story arcs. For the most part, sometimes she gets a little gun happy, but
Hmm.
like I've let my girls, preteens, read through some of the Gwenpools because
Yeah.
they're just funny.
Yeah.
And for the most part, more or less age appropriate to that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And
just
yeah, she's a really, I think, has a very dynamic relationship with each of the different characters. how they fit her into this world. And she really like she is a comic nerd, and that's a fun dynamic because she bumps into someone like Captain Marvel and she's, you know, in awe,
Like,
or
"Ah."
you know, because she's like really into comics, and that's a really cool
Uh-huh.
thing. Or being able to do a team up with people, like doing a team up with like Spider-Man or something like that. She like
Hawkeye.
freaks out because she's like,
Uh-huh.
yes, you know,
Like,
I
girl
um
scream.
and like that's fun because if I again was thrown into that universe and I miraculously was teamed up with Rocket Raccoon or Spider-Man or any of these other like cool characters, right? I would be
Yeah,
freaking out.
seriously.
And
Like, Tony Stark. Oh,
right,
yeah.
right, like that's totally natural, and they play with that, and
They
that's an
do.
amazing thing with this character. So right now, currently, there is no Gwenpool series. She's one of the ones that is definitely a B or C lister style character.
Yeah,
And so you're never necessarily going to have a reoccurring forever all the time series for this character.
probably
Um,
not.
but you are going to get off and on where they say, here's a 6 issue story arc, and
Right.
you're going to be featuring
Go.
this.
Yeah.
And I like, it's one I definitely recommend, and one I think that people, because it is a B C level cast character, that you could easily miss. But Gwenpool is a character that you shouldn't miss because
Yeah.
she is so much fun and
So
really
much
really
fun.
dynamic.
Right. It would be really fun. I don't think they'll ever do it, but if they started having if the MCU started having Gwen running through the background of a scene now and then, that would just make
Yeah,
my
yeah.
day.
Okay.
Right? She
Okay.
doesn't have to do anything, just run through. It'll
Hmm.
be so fun.
Okay, so I love this thought. So as you know, future goes, like will we see some off and on uh appearances and series, you know, limited series for this character in the comics? I totally think so.
Oh yeah.
MCU, what do we see happening here, and what would we want to have happen? Now, this would be a really fun, maybe phase 4, maybe phase 5 thing, particularly with Deadpool now like
Uh-huh.
coming in.
Yep.
Is if Gwenpool made an appearance, I
Right.
would go crazy. And
E- Even if it
what,
was just a what if episode or something,
yeah,
yeah, it'd be great to give a nod to this really crazy character.
yeah. I think what we see inside of like the MCU right now is they're starting to introduce these like newer age Avengers with like the newer
Mhm.
Hawkeye, Miss Marvel. They're going to be incorporating like,
Ironheart,
yeah,
yeah.
all of those different characters. Is Gwenpool really is of that similar era comic wise of
Oh, that's true.
how these
Yeah,
new age characters were like introduced, and these are interesting counterparts to like the predecessors, and this works perfectly for a live action scenario because you can have Iron Man in the comics forever.
right.
There's no problem in casting and other types of things. The only thing
Uh-huh.
that they can do is say, you know, let's do something fresh, let's do something interesting, let's take an opportunity to explore some diversity or other
Right.
type of scenarios, right? And they can play with new characters like that, which that new age of heroes totally did.
Yes.
um, but in just mechanics of live action cinematic universe situations,
Uh-huh.
characters with you for a decade is ready to move on.
Right.
That's a factor you have in that medium that you can't escape.
Right.
And
Possible
introducing,
of death, you
yeah,
know?
that's
Just
that's a big factor, and you have to
yeah.
roll with those punches because you aren't able to just say, oh, let's hire some new
We need a new
writer or
artist,
artist,
right? Uh-huh.
and we can just keep on going. It's different, and with that, introducing these new characters makes logical sense. And having them available because of the comics is fantastic. And Gwenpool, she like we don't really have a new need yet for Deadpool, but she could very easily fit into that role.
Oh yes.
And even if they jump into that early on, we've got that character just jumping in. She also represents us nerds,
Yes.
the fandom,
Oh
and
yes.
seeing that talked about and explored in a live action situation would be amazing. It would
That
be
would be
so
so
much fun.
fun. Right. Disney Plus could do an 8 episode, that would be a great way to tie in 2
Uh-huh.
arcs
Yeah.
even, right?
Um,
Something like that. She would be able to pull that off just by the nature of her character, bouncing here, bouncing there,
yeah.
interacting with the different characters. You could do a really fun tie-in with
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
I think also there's, because we've been around the cinematic universe for long enough, we can do some deconstruction and discuss elements of
Mhm.
this and do some criticism even of it.
Sure.
Like one of the things that is there with the Captain America story arc is like, okay, so why did you actually like sink in with the plane? Why didn't you jump out? Or why didn't you just try to land somewhere else and not have the bombs detonate? Like, could you stop those? Like other things, like what ifs? Like you could
Right.
maybe have done this situation differently. Having Gwen in the universe and voice some of those things
Uh-huh.
because she knows all the stories. Because a
Right.
live, like, I see this as a character who doesn't necessarily just read the comics, but would have, before that moment of entering the universe, watched all of the movies, all of
Right.
the side stuff,
Oh
and
yeah.
going, guys,
She's
do I
big
tell him that that
fan and
person's a bad guy?
right.
Like,
Did you
did you
know?
know?
I'm gonna rat out this Hydra guy
Yeah,
4 movies early,
right.
right?
Like, there are a lot of ways they could play with that and would be amazing in a cinematic situation.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I don't know. Just being able to like hypotheticals here. There's
Yep.
this is a cool thing with this character is there are countless. And again, like I said, like she I think really definitely represents the comic fandom,
Yes.
and having that inside of the universe is just really, really cool.
It's just so much fun. If you're looking for something more light, more fun in between 2 different stories you're going through, Gwenpool is a great one to pick up. You'll just chuckle the whole way through reading it.
Oh man, laughing out loud. That's like my experience. Totally.
Yeah. Uh, Good stuff.
Well, Joseph, do you have anything
Uh,
else to add in?
oh, final thoughts is
Yes.
Gwenpool is like you said, she is the nerds champion inside of the comics and just lighthearted, playful, very fun to read. So I encourage go pick up a Gwenpool and enjoy.
Yeah. And that's like totally the thing is like this is a story not to take too seriously, but to just jump in and just play with, just have fun with, because
Uh-huh.
it's just straight up fun. And this is a character that again I think really should get missed out on because it's very well written stories, very enjoyable experience, and is a super worthwhile experience for comic book fans. And
Definitely.
I'm just such a big fan. Well, Joseph, thank you so much. This was such a fun topic, an amazing character to discuss. So thank you so much.
Of
Um,
course.
for those who are either listening or watching, let us know who you're like, if you've had a different story arc that you've read, what's one of your favorite moments with this character. Also, there's been some live action appearance or animated appearances in some of the cartoon style stories and some other things. Like those are totally on the table as well to discuss. So definitely put those thoughts that you have in the comments. We'd love to hear what you have to share. You can find more Nerd Morning content at nerdmorning.com/links. And we're available on Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, a whole bunch of other places at Nerd Morning. Thank you so much again for joining in, and we'll talk to you guys another time.
Bye.